So I guess, like, straight up, if anybody has comments, questions, obscenities, just throw them right out there, and we'll see if we can deal with them as they come. I think you kind of covered the intros, but I guess this.
Or do we have to? We have to do this, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, this is all about what we can learn from youth, what makes them unique, and really how we can work with them. And we're kind of coming from the starting point that youth today are incredibly empowered, and it's a function of digital. They've got more social power, they've got more creative power, and they're incredibly proactive. It's not uncommon for them to be running their own businesses. We're seeing entrepreneurs, like Kate. These are great stories. But I guess really, what, from a trends perspective, we want to talk about, what young people are doing today can tell us about the future. So I'm going to just start out with you guys. Can youth always be seen as a barometer for what's to come? Or are they an accurate barometer?
Well, I think we're all going to be probably slightly controversial. The first thing and the thing that we've all been talking about is the fact that youth as a concept is already a little bit weird, especially if it's an age, because it just feels like an alien concept to suddenly group a whole group of people and just say, right, they're an alien race that we need to find a way of talking to. If that's kind of the premise of your communication with them, then you've lost the game, because it's as weird as going, how do we talk to adults? Yeah. How do we do that? How do we market to adults? It's so in terms of what they've got to tell us about the future, it's hopefully exactly the same stuff that, if we're honest with ourselves, we already know, but they've got more horizons, they've got less preconceived ideas, they've got less prejudices, I guess, and they've had less time to mould into the kind of groups that people like us are guilty of putting them in, and therefore it just allows us to be more honest with ourselves, look inside ourselves and go, how do we identify with each other, what kind of stuff is going on in the world, and how are they reacting to that? Shouldn't we be doing that as well? It's like... I don't,
is my mic on? Yeah. Is it?
No, you're loud enough.
You're ever so helpful. So it's not, I don't want to hold the thing. That was going to be my... Could you?
Yeah.
So I think there's two sides to it. I think the first thing that asking if youth can sort of help you predict the future. Harmony Korine, who wrote Kids at 19, said that, no, I've said this before, no true underground exists anymore, and I think that's actually one of the most important points. I think we were speaking, the problem is we've just chatted for about an hour outside, so we're all going to repeat ourselves and go, oh, we said that 5 minutes ago. But we were talking about how actually trends as a term, probably shouldn't say this as a PSFK thing, been really helpful. It's almost redundant as a term. I think that things accelerate so quickly. It's more about being a barometer to an extent. And I think the thing with kids, if you are looking at kids and to see about the future, I feel a bit ridiculous. I drove so much better, not better. I think the thing is actually that they experiment more. So if you have got things, you've got things in beta versions or whatever. I'm not that digital, so I don't really know what I'm talking about when I say beta version. But they'll experiment and they'll mess around with your initial ideas. Probably far more than adults will, to an extent, and that's how they can help you in the future. So, but I think looking at kids and telling, seeing what the future is, it's quite a big argument. I think, on another scale. I'll stop talking in a minute. Do you need to do that?
So move it on.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Paul, you mentioned something before, which is nice, and that was that kids are more adaptable and actually more willing to be sort of moulded and shaped into new thinking and new ways of thinking. So when there is something new out there, like we're talking about early adopters, that's where you should be looking for, like Barometer, is like people that are adopting things and like trying them out and testing them. And it just happens to be that young people are more inclined to be doing that. So yeah, you could say look at young people, look at youth, but they're not always the only ones.
I really don't like it. I think the other thing is that this thing of having like courage and stuff. If you look at Terry, who started his own company at 21, it took me to be like, I don't know how old I was, 28 or 29, to have the guts to set up my own company. I think in terms of things like that, that's important as well.
And I guess, this came up just a minute ago. We were talking about, what the importance of looking at youth is, and, whether it's a barometer, for what's to come. But, like you brought up a really good point. Like, people talk about the baby boom generation really changing the world. But, the sheer quantity of youth right now is like going to be influential on its own. I mean, they're an important, it's important to just look at them for the sheer quantity of their influence.
Yeah, but again, we said before, we don't really want to use the sort of term youth as like a very rigid group of people. It means so many things. I mean, I work at MTV, and right now we're talking about youth as being basically anyone who's in the mind frame who wants to watch the channel. That could be a 45-year-old. We have people that will respond to our surveys that are in their 40s. That's because they're interested in the channel and the content. I mean, it's a mindset thing. It's not about saying youth is a 16-year-old. Yeah. So it's not.
I completely agree with this mindset thing. I think one of the arguments people tend to have is that, like when I wrote the Teen Digital Commandments, one of the first comments was this could apply to anyone, and I think, and again we said this outside, my job is to sort of talk about the youth and hopefully be a conduit for the youth voice. But yeah, I think so much of what we do talk about, it doesn't really matter what age you is, brilliant grammar, what age you is.
If you don't understand, you're not youth.
But it's a mindset thing. I did a huge thing for Nike that was, people tend to think of them as a youth brand, and actually it's more about being a youthful brand. So you look at those attributes, which are things like curiosity and stuff like that.
I love the fact that something ludicrous, like over 50% of young people, 18 to 24s, or how you want to describe them, watch Coronation Street. You kind of, so this idea that they're all out there, kind of, starting their own companies and being really cool, and like hanging about, is absolute bollocks. They are first swear word. I got it in before you did. They're just people. If there's one big theme, is don't suddenly compartmentalise them and put them somewhere weird, and just remember that they're just people and they're doing exactly the same stuff that we're doing. They're probably the thing that I think marks them out is they don't see the joy. So while we're all happily trying to go, there's that, let's do a bit of digital, let's do a bit of advertising, let's do a bit of this, they don't see it like that, they just get on with it. And the reason they just get on with it is because it's all there for the taking, and they're growing up in that environment. And the quicker we can work that out or get our heads around the idea that we shouldn't compartmentalise, then we'll have kind of cracked.
Also, can I have the conch? Also, it's about not panicking, which is your point. It's about not panicking.